College Corner as we get into week 8 of the college football season, more than halfway through the year already. That seems crazy to say, but we've got 4 plays for you guys today. Last week, 1-2-1, but we were 6-3-1 on the week overall. If you follow me on Twitter, I'll include the link to my Twitter down below in the description. I will never bet on Joe Milton again. Over. That's it. No more. No moss on Joe Milton. He absolutely stinks out loud at throwing the football. Can't do it. And then a brutal beat with South Carolina, up 10 with like 4 minutes to go, lose outright, don't cover. But we move along here. I really want to cover some of these big games, Ohio State, Penn State, third weekend of October when we got Tennessee and Alabama. But as you get later into the year, a lot of these lines get a lot sharper and tougher to get reads on and get edges on. So I don't have plays in those 2 games. As it currently stands, I might add some on Saturday. So again, follow me there on Twitter. But I got 4 plays for you for this week. Let's get into them. All right, today's video and every College Corner video is brought to you by props.cash. First play today is going to be a player prop. Instead of sharing and telling you more about selling you on props.cash, I will just show you what you can do using it. If you guys do want to check them out in the description, link will be in the description to download the app there. But look at Corey Kiner, over 62.5 rushing yards. So using props.cash, I can see he's gone over this number in just 50% of his games this season. So nothing crazy that sticks out. He has gone under in 3 of his last 4. But using the tools of props.cash, I can actually filter in wins, losses, as favorites, as underdogs, and even I think conference games, non-conference games, tons of options. What I've done here is looked at his wins and losses. And in wins this season, he's gone over in both games. In losses, he's gone under in 3 of 4. And in this particular game, a matchup they have with Baylor, this team, the Cincinnati Bearcats, are a 4-point favorite in this one. So that has them projected to win this game, which is great for Kiner. On the season, he's averaging 14.5 carries per game. But in games 1 or decided by 1 score, which are there are 2 games here that were decided by 1 score in their loss to BYU, and then in their loss to Miami, Ohio, he's averaging 16.5 touches per game. So in close games or games they're winning, he's going to get a bit of an uptick in carries, which would definitely help him get over this number. Now, getting into the matchup, Baylor, 103rd in opponent EPA per rush this season. They've really struggled against the run and made some pretty lethargic offenses look pretty good. They've given up 5.6 yards per carry, which is 118th. They're 101st in broken tackle rate. So it's really easy for teams to be able to stay ahead of the line, or stay ahead of the chains and be able to run the football at a good volume as well. And then what Kiner's been missing, again, using the tools for props.cash, Kiner's longest rush in his last 4 games is just 12 yards. Good news is Baylor can help him out there. They're 125th in explosive play run rate allowed. So we could see some big plays from Kiner, making it easy for him to clear this number. That is why I love him going over 62.5 rushing yards on Saturday. Next up, let's root for some points in South Carolina and Missouri. The total set at 59.5. Got a lot to get into. South Carolina is a team I've been targeting a ton this season. I think we bet on them in our videos at least 3 times already on the year. But this is as good of a matchup as you can get for Missouri on the offensive side of the ball with Brady Cook, Luther Burden. South Carolina can't generate much of a pass rush. They're 89th in sack rate, 83rd in pressure rate, so should be pretty easy going here for Cook in the pocket. They're also one of the worst pass defenses in the country, 125th. Remember, there's 133 teams in college football at the FBS level, and they give up the 7th most completions of 20-plus air yards, where Cook has been very good. He's completed 16 of 31 passes of 20-plus air yards, 7 touchdowns to just 1 interception. So he's very, I would describe it as surgical on these type of deep plays. He picks his spots and picks them very effectively, and he's got a guy like Luther Burden, Theo Weiss to be able to generate these big plays for this offense through the air. Now, for South Carolina on the offensive side, they lean very heavily on Spencer Rattler. They're top 20 in pass rate on the season, and for good reason. Rattler has been fantastic throwing the football, 72.8% completion percentage, averaging 8.8 yards per attempt. He's having a great year. Missouri, the one thing that gives me a little bit of pause here as to why this game might not go over, great pass rush, 6th in pressure rate, 27th in sack rate. But here's the thing with Rattler, he's been under duress all season. This offensive line has not performed well enough for him. And Missouri, despite the pass rush being effective, their pass defense has still not been good. They're 80th in EPA against the pass. These are 2 teams that are pretty fast as well. South Carolina top 30 in seconds per play. Missouri barely in the upper half here in the top 70. So we should expect the pace to be pretty decent. And honestly, South Carolina games this season have been soaring over against pretty much every opponent they've had this season. So I don't expect that to change here because Missouri's offense has been operating at a high level. So give me the over at 59.5. Next up, I mentioned how tough it is to be able to bet on some of these high-profile games. So let's get deep into our bag here. Hawaii, I'm going over 30.5 points on their team total, that is. That's Hawaii to score over 30.5 on the road at New Mexico. Hawaii is one of the highest, or is the highest passing volume team in the country this season. They're throwing the ball in over 67, almost 68% of plays. Number one, again, in all of college football. And New Mexico could not be a better matchup for this offense. We got New Mexico's defense ranked 132nd in EPA against the pass. The only team worse than them is Nevada. They're giving up 9.6 yards per attempt on the season, which is 131st. And cannot generate any sacks. 122nd in sack rate. And I was diving into their games, looking game by game over on PFF, and I found that they are blitzing their opponents on like over 60% of plays. There were some games they're blitzing opponents on 70% of plays, and they still cannot generate sacks. So that tells me this is a team that is just racing to get after the quarterback, doesn't believe in the skill they have on the field, which is not surprising. This is New Mexico we're talking about. And even so, can't generate pressure. So you're going to give up a ton of explosive plays when you don't have those numbers in coverage. And for Schrager, the quarterback for Hawaii, he's been dealing with the blitz a ton this season. He's been blitzed the most in all of college football, so he's going to be very comfortable. He's completing almost 60% of his passes against the blitz this season, been very good there. So I have a lot of faith in him to be able to handle that and perform here to put up a ton of points. This is a New Mexico team that also in the second half of games has been giving up at minimum 20 points to their opponents in the last 3 weeks. I believe San Jose State last week put up 34 in the second half alone. So they're running out of gas here. This is a team basically on quit watch in my mind. And Hawaii coming on the road, I think easily can get over 30.5. If you can't find the team total, I found this over at DraftKings today. If you don't have that and you can't find it anywhere else, I'm comfortable taking them on the money line. They're basically a pick 'em. I just don't quite trust their defense enough to cover or to win this game completely, but I do think they will, and it starts with going over 30.5 points. Okay, now we can get to one of the bigger games on the week. Could be bigger if Riley Leonard was playing in this game. I'm going to Duke, Florida State, and I'm taking the first half under 25.5. Look, I know I said Riley Leonard isn't going to play. I would not expect him to play. I know he was working out pregame last week against NC State, didn't ultimately play. Look, the high ankle sprain, even if he does play, that is the big ability for Leonard this season, has been able to use his legs and run the ball. So even if he is available, he's not going to be that type of player in this game. So I still feel comfortable with the under, even if he is playing. The real story here on the season and in this matchup is the Duke defense. Been fantastic this season, especially against the pass. So what I really like for Duke to be able to keep this total down in that first half, Jordan Travis, top 25 in the country in pass attempts of 20-plus air yards. So he's pushing the ball downfield quite a bit. Almost 20% of his passes are actually of 20-plus air yards. So this is a guy that is pretty reliant on it. Guy like Johnny Wilson, guys like Keon Coleman. That doesn't surprise me. But Duke, you'll not believe this, because what are we? Week 8 we're heading into, 7 weeks into the season. This Duke team is giving up a 3.6, not 30.6, 3.6% completion percentage on passes of 20-plus air yards. You are not hitting explosive pass plays against this Duke defense. Teams are 1 for 28 on pass attempts of 20-plus air yards for just 28 yards. So even on the one they did hit, it's not one that went for a touchdown. It's not one that went for a massive game-breaking play. It's an excellent secondary that's really doing its job at a high level. They're the number 1 defense in opponent EPA per pass. So completely shutting down opponents offensively in the passing game. Did it against some decent opponents too. We talk about Clemson. I know Notre Dame hasn't looked necessarily electric offensively, but still a great quarterback in Sam Hartman. And then we saw NC State record just 3 points last week on Saturday. So I love what they can do defensively to limit the explosive plays from Florida State, at least early on in this one. Maybe later in the game they finally hit 1 or 2 as maybe this Duke defense runs out of gas, because I don't think the offense, which we're going to get to here, is going to have a ton of success. The offense operates incredibly slowly. They're 112th in the country in pace, so that's perfect for an under, especially in the first half where this game is going to be a little bit closer. You know, Duke is a 14.5-point dog here, so if things get at hand, they might have to play a little faster, but early on they shouldn't. FSU isn't that fast either, 86th in pace, so Pace is solid here for this game to go under in this first half. So with Riley Leonard out, they've gone to Henry Bellin at quarterback. He attempted just 12 passes last week. He was 4 for 12. And FSU is a team that has struggled against the run this season. They're 89th in opponent EPA per rush. So I think you might see a similar way for this Duke team to attack Florida State on their offensive side of the ball. They probably won't throw the ball much early. They'll lean on the ground game where they think they have an advantage offensively, and that leads to the clock churning quite a bit here. And even if we get late into this half, or late into this first half and Duke has the ball, they're probably not going to be capable of putting together a 2-minute drill, and they'll probably look to get the ball if they do 5-6 minutes left, look to burn that clock, run the football a bunch. So I think this game could pretty easily stay under 25.5 in the first half because you can trust this Duke defense at least early on here to keep things pretty close and pretty low scoring. Those are my 4 favorite plays heading into week 8 of the college football season. Again, recapping: Corey Kiner of Cincinnati over 62.5 rushing yards, South Carolina, Mizzou over 59.5, Hawaii's team total over 30.5, and then the first half under 25.5 in Florida State and Duke. Again, if you guys are looking for more for this Saturday, I will definitely have more. I'll definitely be adding to the card in the lead up. Drop me a follow on Twitter. And of course, be sure to check out props.cash, an awesome tool. Been so kind to me in college football. We've been crushing the player props. That's where I'll definitely be adding as they get more released closer to Saturday morning. So go check them out. The link will be down below in the description. If you use promo code OwnersBox, you're going to get 25% off your first month. First month for just $15. They don't just have college football. They have the NFL. They have Major League Baseball, the NBA coming soon, the NHL as well. So go check them out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you on the next one.